government to respond accordingly to Goldman Sachs filing for arbitration. Foreign Ministry working to evacuate Malaysians in Palestine. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Brendan Lepol and you are watching Malaysia Tonight. The government will respond to Goldman Sachs filing for arbitration against Malaysia in the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB settlement dispute in accordance with the established legal frameworks while ensuring that the interests of the Malaysian people is safeguarded. 1MDB Task Force Chairman, Asset Recovery, Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani said the Task Force Committee was quite surprised at the conduct of Goldman Sachs as parties are still in the stage of good faith discussions to resolve any dispute amicably. Bloomberg reported that Goldman Sachs Group Inc. is suing Malaysia in a United Kingdom court amid festering disagreement over a settlement tied to its role in the 1MDB investment fund scandal. In a statement today, Datuk Seri Johari said Goldman Sachs' action of initiating arbitration proceedings also appear to be an attempt to detract and divert attention away from the bank's obligation to adhere to the interim payment of $250 million requirement under the settlement agreement. He said that the government had come to an agreement with Goldman Sachs on 18 August 2020, where a cash payment of $2.5 billion was to be paid 10 days from signing of the settlement agreement, and asset recovery amounting to $1.4 billion by Goldman Sachs within 5 years from the date of the settlement agreement. If Malaysia had not recovered $500 million by 18 August 2022, Goldman Sachs would be required to pay $250 million as interim payment. He said the current deadline for the latest extension expires on 8 November 2023, and if a settlement is not reached between the parties by this deadline, the government can begin arbitration proceedings in respect of the interim payment of $250 million. TikTok's compliance with Malaysian laws is still unsatisfactory and must be improved promptly. Communications and Digital Minister Fami had personally stressed the matter during a meeting with TikTok's top management, led by TikTok Global Vice President Helena Lurch yesterday. In a post on his Facebook today, Fami said apart from running its operations in accordance with Malaysian guidelines and laws, TikTok must also be more proactive in curbing the spread of fake news and defamatory content on the platform, including the spread of coordinated inauthentic behavior, CIB. He added TikTok management acknowledges the weaknesses in their response due to the absence of a representative in Malaysia at the moment. TikTok has given their assurance to increase cooperation with the Malaysian government. Furthermore, they also pledged commitment to hold further discussions as soon as possible to find solutions to these issues. The government has not withdrawn or revoked the concession agreement with Padi Beras Nasional Berhad or BERNAS that was signed for a 10-year period from 11 January 2021 to 10th January 2031. The Agriculture and Food Security Ministry or KPKM, in refuting claims that the concession agreement has been revoked, said a complaint had been lodged with the Communications and Multimedia Commission MCMC to allow a thorough investigation to be carried out. Elaborating further through a statement release, the ministry advises the public not to believe a fake message viral through WhatsApp and stop the spread of the misleading information. On claims over the lack of enforcement, the ministry said the local white rice integrated operation, Op BPT, is ongoing, and so far 2 factories have been sealed and were being investigated under the control of Paddy and Rice Act 1994. The operation, led by KPKM Deputy Minister Dato' Chan Fung Hin, was first conducted on 16 August. The operation, which focuses on inspecting and enforcing regulations on commercial rice mills and rice wholesalers, was mounted in collaboration with various agencies, including the Enforcement Division of the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living and the Police. The government today officially released the procedures and guidelines for the electric vehicle EV charging infrastructure in the country in order to assure an efficient charging bay CB infrastructure. Local Government Development Minister Ngah Meng said the guidelines and procedures planning GPP of EV CB is to provide guidance to state and local authorities as well as all parties involved in the planning, designing and overseeing developments.
Kerajaan telah menyiasatkan sebanyak 10,000 sasaran minimum electrical vehicle charging bay dipasang di seluruh negara menjelang tahun 2025 tentang lokasi dan peletakan EV. Ia boleh disediakan di kawasan perumahan, komersial, industri, stesen minyak, kawasan R&R. Pemasangannya dibenarkan di luar bangunan outdoor dan juga di dalam bangunan indoor, di aras bumbung terbuka open rooftop level ataupun unclosed level.
Meanwhile, for EVCBs that have already been constructed and are operational, charger point operators must submit an application to the local authority within 2 years for legalization, starting from the date the guidelines were issued. As of today, a total of 1,276 EVCBs have been constructed at shopping centres, car showrooms, hotels and resorts for public use. Malaysian Aviation Commission MAVCOM has instructed My Airline Sendirian Berhad to immediately discontinue the sale and booking of flights from all booking platforms until further notice, following the carrier's surprise announcement that it has suspended its operation effective today. The Civil Aviation Regulator said the airline is still liable to refund consumers who have purchased tickets with the airline but are unable to travel. In a statement today, the Commission said it is currently investigating the airline based on internal reviews and complaints received regarding the airline's unpaid statutory payments to its employees, among others. MAVCOM also said it will provide further developments with regard to My Airline's operations in due course. Meanwhile, it has instructed My Airline to immediately manage affected consumers, which include, among others, notifying them of the suspension and publishing the said notification in the airline's available communication channels. The Commission said it has put in place dedicated hotlines and channels to assist consumers affected by this sudden suspension. The dedicated channels include the Consumer Hotline, Fly Smart Complaint web form, and Fly Smart mobile application. And meanwhile, several major airlines in the country have stepped forward to help those who were affected by the suspension. Malaysia Airlines is offering to reallocate My Airline passengers on its flights between Kuala Lumpur, Kota Kinabalu, Kuching, Langkawi and Bangkok. While budget carrier Air Asia is offering a 50% discount on one-way base fares exclusively to affected My Airline passengers. The special offer, effective immediately, is applicable to passengers with confirmed flight bookings to and from Kuala Lumpur, Langkawi, Pulau Pinang, Tawau, Kota Baru, Kuching, Kota Kinabalu to Tawau, and Don Muang to Bangkok, and Suvarnabhumi to Bangkok from today until 30th November 2023. Similarly, Bata Air is offering special one-way fares to My Airline customers for travel from today until 30th November. The fares include Pulau Pinang at 129 ringgit, Langkawi at 159 ringgit, Kuching at 199 ringgit, and 299 ringgit for Don Muang and Kota Kinabalu. Coming up next, digital economy to make up more than 20% of national GDP this year. Stay tuned. The growth of Islamic banks in Malaysia has outpaced its conventional peers, with penetration growing tremendously over the past 10 to 15 years and now accounting for around 40% of the total financing in the country. According to Moody's Investor Service or Moody's Financial Institutions Group analyst Wong Chong Jun, The penetration rate stood around 20% around 10 to 15 years ago. He said Islamic banking growth in Malaysia is mainly driven by government policies as well as the Islamic First strategy employed by the banks. On the Islamic First strategy, which essentially means prioritizing Islamic banks and Islamic products, Wong said, it was observed that there had been a significant increase in Islamic banking products market share in Malaysia's major banks. Wong said that the government has been very supportive of Malaysia's Islamic banking industry, which has been reflected in the multiple policies announced and implemented over the past few years. He said among the policies enacted include the value-based intermediation framework established in 2018, the Halal Industry Master Plan 2030, which was released earlier this year. Malaysia's digital economy is anticipated to contribute 24.4% to GDP in 2023 and rise further to 25.5% next year. The National Tech Association of Malaysia, or PCOM, Deputy Chairman Alex Liu said the momentum will hold its strength amid the national economy forecasted to grow 4.5% in 2024. On the employment front, he said the digital job market has witnessed double-digit growth in tech salaries, mirroring an economy that is judiciously harnessing technology for heightened efficiency and productivity. Meanwhile, its advisor and research chair, Woon Tai Hai, said PCOM is projecting a 4.13% salary growth for 2024 in the sector and an average annual growth rate of 6.45% over the next decade.
5G, I don't think it will be a disruptive to the job at this point because it's still very early part of the intake. It's more the network and all that. But the AI, the data analytics, and robotics, all these will certainly be I won't say disruption, it will be a spur to the job demand. Okay, and I think more upskilling will be required because the university won't be able to cope enough of this. That's why I mentioned just now, if the government do anything, it should be at the education level and also at the upskilling level.
The association has a company membership of more than 1,000 involved in tech products and services, which command 80% of Malaysia's total tech business. FIABCI Malaysia, the local chapter of the International Real Estate Federation, FIABCI hopes that Budget 2024 will focus on key areas that are pivotal for the sustainable growth of the local property market. President Dato' Firdaus Musa urged the government to allocate substantial funds for the construction of affordable housing units, particularly in high-demand urban areas. Elaborating further through a statement released, Dato' Firdaus said, to further incentivize private developers to actively participate in affordable housing projects, FIABCI Malaysia recommends the introduction of tax breaks and land incentives. The organisation also called for the introduction of tax incentives and rebates to promote green and energy-efficient developments to reduce the industry's carbon footprint while attracting environmentally conscious investors. FIABCI Malaysia emphasised on prioritising infrastructure development, including transportation networks and utilities. To make home ownership more accessible for Malaysians, the chapter expressed hope that the government would make financing more accessible and affordable for the lower income group in Malaysia. Malaysia's Industrial Production Index, or IPI, inched down by 0.3% in August 2023 compared to the same month a year ago as export-oriented industries decline, while the domestic-oriented ones continue to expand. In a statement, Chief Statistician Datuk Sri Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said the month of July recorded a positive 0.7%. He attributed the drop to the manufacturing sector contracting 0.6% in August versus the 0.2% contraction in July 2023. However, he said August 2023's IPI rose by 2.8% when compared against July 2023, which saw a negative growth of 1.8%. The mining sector, however, saw a marginal 0.1% growth, while the electricity sector expanded by 1.9%. These declines mirrored the country's export performance performance, which had been trending down since March 2023 and recorded an 18.6% decrease in August 2023. On the contrary, the chief statistician said the domestic-oriented industries continued to expand moderately at 4.2% versus 6.0% in the previous months. The IPI performance for the first 8 months of 2023 saw a slower growth rate of 1.0% compared to the same period a year ago, which was 7.3%. During the period, the indices for all sectors posted positive growth, namely the manufacturing index 1.2%, mining index 0.2%, and the electricity index 1.6%. Meanwhile, Malaysia's manufacturing sector saw its sales value fall 3.3% year-on-year to 152.3 billion ringgit in August 2023, mainly due to the petroleum chemical, rubber and plastic subsector, which shrank 12.1%. Dato' Sri Muhammad Uze said the decline in August was also attributable to the contraction in the food, beverages and tobacco subsector. On the monthly basis, he said the sales value in the month rebounded to 5.8% versus a 2.4% contraction in July 2023. On export-oriented industries, Muhammad Uze said the sales value, which accounted for 72.7% of total sales, decreased 6.7% in August 2023, from a contraction of 7% in July. On the domestic-oriented industries, the sales value grew 7.2% in August 2023 versus 9.1% in the previous months. For the first 8 months of 2023, the chief statistician said the sales value of the manufacturing sector stood at 1.2 trillion ringgit, up 1.7% as compared to the same period in the preceding year. And meanwhile, Malaysia's wholesale and retail trade recorded sales value of 142.5 billion ringgit, an increase of 6.7% year-on-year in August 2023. The Department of Statistics Malaysia, DOSM, said on a month-on-month comparison, sales value grew 2.0%. The increase of 6.7% for wholesale and retail trade in August 2023 was attributed to the wholesale trade subsector, which rose to 63.9 billion ringgit. Retail trade also expanded by 6.3% to 60.5 billion ringgit, followed by motor vehicles, which grew 9.7% to 18.1 billion ringgit. The wholesale trade rose 1.2% or 0.8 billion ringgit compared to the previous months. Looking at the performance across subsectors, the growth of 6.2% year-on-year in wholesale trade was attributed to other specialized wholesale, which rose to 25 billion ringgit. Commenting further on the retail trade subsector, the increase of 6.3% year-on-year in the month reviewed was supported by retail sales in non-specialized stores, which grew 9.2% to 23 billion ringgit. Foreign front, Israel deploys tanks, troops at Lebanon border. Stay with us. The Foreign Ministry is in the process of evacuating a Malaysian woman who is married to a Palestinian from the West Bank in view of the current clashes in Palestine involving Hamas, the ruling authority in Gaza, and the Israeli regime. Foreign Minister Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir said the woman, identified as Dr. Nurul Ain Latif from Kota Baru, Kelantan, was reported to be in a safe place.
Di Palestin yang kini telah melangkau ke hari ke-6. Kita juga sedang berusaha untuk melakukan proses evakuasi untuk Dr. Nurul Ain ini, dan sehingga kini kita mendapat kerjasama daripada kedutaan Filipina untuk mengeluarkan keluarga ini bersama dengan 8 warga Indonesia yang berada di kawasan yang tersebut.
Apart from Dr. Nurul Ain, he said, there were 4 other Malaysian passport holders in the West Bank, a mother and 3 children. Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Dr. Zamri said the Malaysian government will provide an initial contribution of 1 million ringgit from the Humanitarian Trust Fund for the people of Palestine to ease the burden of the Palestinians affected by the conflict. Israel vowed to completely destroy Hamas on the eve of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's expected visit today, as Washington underscores support for the Jewish state in a war that has seen the death toll spiral into the thousands. Just ahead of Blinken's trip, Washington urged its ally to show restraint in its response to Hamas's surprise attack, which Israeli forces claimed had killed more than 1,200 people, mostly civilians. In Gaza, officials have reported more than 1,200 people killed in Israel's uninterrupted campaign of air and artillery strikes, while the UN said more than 338,000 people have been displaced. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised statement on Wednesday, threatened a total annihilation of Hamas. For days, black smoke has billowed into the sky above the impoverished Palestinian enclave of 2.3 million people, where entire city blocks have been razed. As the war rages on, fears are growing over the fate of at least 150 hostages held in Gaza by Hamas. Hamas claimed that 4 captives died in Israeli strikes and threatened to kill the others if civilian targets were bombed without advance warning from Israel. On Wednesday, it is said to have released an Israeli woman and her 2 children, who it said had been detained during fighting with Israeli forces, but Israeli television networks rejected the announcement. Tension of the Israel-Lebanon border seemed high on Thursday as Israeli troops, tanks and vehicles were deployed and on standby. This comes a day after violence on the border between Israel and Lebanon flared up for a 4th day on Wednesday, with Israeli shelling hitting southern Lebanese towns in response to a fresh rocket attack by Hezbollah. Hezbollah said it had fired precision missiles at an Israeli position in response to the killing of its members in Israeli shelling earlier this week, pledging decisive responses to attacks on Lebanese territory, especially deadly ones. The Israeli military said it had hit a Hezbollah position with an airstrike and had also attacked Lebanon after a military post near the Israeli town of Arab al-Aramsheh was targeted with anti-tank fire on Wednesday. A Lebanese security source said Hezbollah fired 2 precision missiles into Israel, which the group considers its sworn enemy. Hezbollah and Palestinian faction Hamas both claimed attacks from Lebanon on Tuesday. Hezbollah fired a guided missile at an Israeli tank, posting a video of its destruction, and Hamas said it launched a salvo of rockets from Al-Kolayla into Israel. The outbreak of violence along the border came after Hamas launched a deadly attack against Israel at the weekend, with Israel unleashing a bombing campaign against Gaza. Arab foreign ministers on Wednesday denounced Israel's siege of Gaza following the shock attack by Palestinian militants on Israel, demanding that aid be immediately allowed to enter the blockaded enclave. Israel has imposed a complete siege on the Gaza Strip, cutting off water supply, food, electricity, and other essential supplies. Jordan today sent the first aid delivery destined for Gaza since the start of the latest conflict. A Jordanian military source said a military plane would fly the aid to Rafah border, crossing with Egypt, from which it would be transferred to authorities in Gaza if permissions were secured. Jordan Hajmite Charity Organization Secretary General Dr. Hussein M. Al-Shelby said the plane is carrying medical medicines that are in need in such conditions and for such injuries. Israeli jets have pounded Gazans' targets for days in retribution for a weekend attack by Hamas. The death toll in Gaza has risen to 1,200, with around 5,600 wounded. Early exit in 2023 Arctic Open. Stay tuned. But first, ahead of the Merdeka football tournament, national squad midfielder Noah Liner committed to give his best with the Harimau Malaya in their clash against India tomorrow evening. According to him, the match is the best platform for him to gain trust of head coach Kim Panggon.
I enjoyed being with them, and also every time you get to represent Malaysia is an honor, so it's nice to be here again. Of course, it's nice to have something to play for, like tournament. You want to always win. If it's like just a friendly, it's maybe a bit different, but of course you want to win every game.
The young player, who is currently playing for a Finland-based club, admitted that he had to compete with others to secure his spot in the first 11. Tomorrow's action promised to be tight as both teams are looking to book a spot in the final. The winners will face off against Tajikistan next Tuesday. And moving on to badminton, Malaysia's #1 men's pair, Aaron Chia Soboyik, suffered an early exit in the 2023 Arctic Open tournament after losing to another Malaysian pair, Man Wei Chong, T Kai Woon. Wei Chong, Kai Woon sealed the victory with a straight sets 21-11, 21-18 in the first round of the tournament. The young duo made it look easy after putting down the world #4 pair within 26 minutes. Fatigue accumulated during the Asian Games in Hangzhou may be one of the contributing factors to Aaron Buyik's early round exit. Wei Chong Kai Woon is scheduled to meet Japanese pair Keiichiro Matsui, Yoshinori Takeuchi, who were the better side in their clash against France yesterday in the second round of the tournament. And in tennis, Carlos Alcaraz's aspiration to end the year as world #1 suffered a blow on Wednesday as a 20-year-old Spaniard was knocked out of the Shanghai Masters in the round of 16 by Grigor Dimitrov. The 32-year-old Bulgarian Tour veteran earned his first win over the two-time major winner in their fourth encounter with a 5-7, 6-2, 6-4 victory. The fourth round upset sees Alcaraz exit the ATP 1000 event, trailing world #1 Novak Djokovic, who pulled out of the Shanghai tournament by 500 points.
I will try to do my best. I'll try to... Well, with this lose, I'm a little bit further. And it's going to be tougher if I want to be #1. I have a few tournaments ahead. So I'll try to do my best. I'll try to, win them. If I want to have a chance to end the year as a #1, I don't know. But right now, I lose a lot of opportunities to make it.
Alcaraz, who had been the favorite for the Shanghai crown, said he had always been up against it. Wrapping our bulletin with a reminder of our top story. Government to respond accordingly to Goldman Sachs filing for arbitration. Do join us again tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. in the afternoon for World News Update on TV2 and Saluran Berita RTM. You can also catch it on the go on RTM Click's website or mobile application. Till then, I'm Brandon Paul. Thank you so much for watching. Malaysia Madani, Tekap Perpaduan, Penuhi Harapan.